Hello everyone, my name is Vidyasagar Patru. I'm the founder and principal architect of ZeTechno. We deal with A to Z services for ServiceNow. In today's video, we'll be talking about GlideRecord. Let's get started. What is GlideRecord? To start with the concept, it's a Java class. When I say class, it will work exactly as you would use any of the JavaScript, native JavaScript classes. It will have its own properties, and that is what we're going to use for anything, right? So what does it get used for? It gets used for any kind of SQL queries. Instead of writing down any SQL queries, you would actually write down, or use the API for these operations, starting from query, update, inserts, and deletions, all these things, right? So a glide record object can contain 0 or more than 1 record from any table, one single table. Okay. The other way to look at this one is, when we see at GlideRecord, we see it as an ordered list with a pointer mechanism. I always explain this concept in this way. Let's talk about a little bit more on what is ordered list with pointer mechanism. Consider this one as a list of records on the table, right? So we have around 6 records here. So if we have records on a table, how do we refer them? In ServiceNow, we call it as sysids, right? Over here, I have given them as hypothetical, numbers, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Otherwise, it is usually a 32-bit character, which identifies a particular record in ServiceNow. Now, ServiceNow internally, whatever it is doing, however it is allocating the memory, that's a different thing. But for us to understand what GlideRecord would do, I'm just trying to give you an example over here. These are not physical addresses. These are just an identifier. The sysid is just an identifier for a record. So this is how you can see. If I have identifier, then definitely I can refer any column or any field on that particular record. Now we have, the references, we have the records. Now, what does GR do here, or GlideRecord do here? Think of it as a pointer. Whenever we make or initiate a GlideRecord, it would actually look for what table it is to point to and what should be the first record it should point to based on our queries. So we'll talk about more queries in the later part, but in this case, the GR, let's think that we are trying to see all the records of the table, and GR would point, if we initiate the object of GlideRecord, then it will point to the first record in the order we want. Okay, it will always order to the first record. Now, how it will work out is when we move or we use the functions for GR, we can actually traverse from one record to the other. So the pointer would move from 1 to 2, then 2 to 3, 3 to 4, then 4 to 5, and 5 to 6. Now, one thing you can notice here is the arrows are only unidirectional. That means it can go only forward. So once I'm going a step forward from record 1 to record 2, there is no way actually I can go back. There is no direct way to do that. And that's where the note statement comes. It can be considered, if you know the concepts of data structure, it can be considered as a single linked list which moves or contains the address only to the forward node. It does not know how to go back. It will just go forward, and you can traverse all the records in that data set. So that is what overall is the ordered list with pointer mechanism means. So what is the syntax of this? The syntax on this one is you have an object name, initiate it with a table name, right? It's a very simple thing. How do we use it? If you're looking at GlideRecord, you are already aware of a few concepts, that there is a table called as incident, there is a table called as user, and there is a table called as change request. These are the tables which you always look at the first time you look at ServiceNow. So the first record, the first example which we see over here is, gr underscore incident. This will become the object name, and incident is actually the table name. Now what it does is it will initiate a object of glide record type for the table incident. Now whatever operations I want to do is something we'll have to see in the next slides. The similar thing happens for user, sysuser. Sysuser refers to the user table. As you can see, we have initiated an object for gr_user. In the same way, you can see for change request, we have initiated an object for gr_ch. Now there is no naming convention as in we have to start from gr_. You can name as in any variable which you want to, variable name you would want to. But the recommendation is always to have some naming convention for us to easily identify, or you to identify what kind of object or variable is this. If the code is very lengthy, we would always recommend to have a naming convention. Moving on. These are few of the frequently used properties. Any class will have properties, and these are the few properties which you would want to know about. So here is our environment, ServiceNow environment. So before I go into this, how we would be doing this is I'll be running few background scripts and to be showing this. And GlideRecord is to be used only on server-side scripts. If you're using it on client side, we can, but that's never a best practice to do. You can do the query statements or so. You would understand it better in later stages, but I can just tell you that you should not use GlideRecord in client scripts or UI policies or any form of front end. So what I would be doing for the demo is we'll be running few background scripts. As you can see, there is a place where I can run any background script. This is comfortable for you. This any class will have a set of properties, and over here in GlideRecord, we'll be looking at the demos for all of these properties. But let me just walk you through all the commonly used properties or what you would need before doing anything, any operations like update or delete or insert. You would need to know about these things. So the query is something which would allocate or bring the data into the GlideRecord object. Moving on to AdQuery, what it does is if we have a set of records, let's say there are 500 records on the user table, and I want to see only the active users. So I would be putting up some kind of filter that active is true on the table to find it out. It's more like a where condition on SQL statement. So you can relate it with that. Add encoded query would mean, we have ServiceNow filters. We can provide those filters instead of providing add query. I'll show you, this will make more sense during the demo, but add encoded query will actually have a filter copied from the table list, and we can paste it there, and we can actually get that exact data set into our GlideRecord if we have to do some operation with it. Now, when we do any queries, right, as I told, the data set will be going into the GlideRecord, or GlideRecord will start referring into the data set. Get row count will help us to identify how many records are there. That's a very, very lightweight function or property, which would actually help you know how many records is GlideRecord object holding right now. Has next is again a very lightweight function, which would actually help you in trying to understand, is there anything existing after the current record? That's the purpose of has next. It returns true, otherwise false. Now, how do we move to the next records? As you can see already, the next function is very clearly written here. So if I'm done with the operation with one record, whatever operation I want to do, I would move to the next record using this function. Don't worry about it. We'll see all these in details in the demo, which is coming up. So let's get into that. So for the demo, we'll be using our Sublime text because the formatting on this one is much better, I feel. We do have ServiceNow, formatters present, but I'm generally comfortable with this. We can use Visual Studio as well. The way I will be showing you the demos, it will be running on the background scripts. So let's find it out. I mean, if I'm writing down anything here, you can see there is no formatting on this. So that is the reason there is Sublime, and I'll be using that. where gr underscore user equal to new glide record. This is something which you have already seen. So I'll be writing down sys underscore user, right? So with the same thing, whatever I'm writing down here, I'll be giving you the, view over here as well. So sys underscore user dot list will actually let us see all the records in user table. As you can see in this instance, we have 33 users, and we'll try to get those 33 records first. So the first thing which you use, as I told you, is to get a data set into GlideRecord. Now, GR user is right now capable to hold any record or data set of sys user type, but we haven't allocated those, or we haven't referenced it yet. So what we would be doing is, we'll be writing down gr underscore user dot query. At this point of time, gr underscore user object contains the reference to all the records of sys user table. So how do we verify this, right? So as I told you on the function there, that gr underscore user dot get row count. If we do this, we will be getting a return of the row count. For this demo, I'll be doing on the background script. So I'll be writing down a print statement, gs.info, and I will be putting this in the print statement. For our convenience, I'll put a message for us to understand number of referenced records, and I'll just keep it as it is, right? As you can see, yeah. So if there is a way, yeah, and zoom out a little bit. Yeah. Now you can see the whole script. gs.info, we'll be seeing this kind of print statement, number of reference records currently in gr underscore user by get row count. Let's run this quickly and see something to see for us, right? So I'll be going into background script, and we are expecting a response of 33, right? Because the total number of records in user is 33. Let me put it here, run the script. Let's see. Number of reference records is 33. So as you can see here, script works, and our gr underscore user dot query is actually creating this. Now let's play around a little bit on this. If I comment this thing and then try to do this, let's see what happens. Number of reference records is 0. Why does this happen? Is we are capable to hold any kind of references or data set, but it has never been retrieved. So query statements helps us retrieve this data set into the object, right? So if I go back to this, so we already covered right now query and get row count, right? So next thing we'll see is how do I traverse, or what is the, before we go into traversing as well, let's see what is has next. Okay. Yeah, we have already seen right now in the current demo that how query thing works and get row count works. Now let's see the next function. Okay. So once this is done, right? So how do I traverse my records, right? In this case, I would be just writing down, as simple as writing down any while loop. I'll be writing down a while loop here. I'll be writing down gr underscore user dot next. Now what this does, right? If I go back to my previous slides, as you can see here, it would go from first to the second, right? And then second to third. So that is what the next statement would do. If I go back here, I would be just writing down, let's print the user IDs, right? So I would say gs.print or gs.info. Let's use gs.info for all these things. And I would write down user ID is, right? I'll put a space and I would just add gr. How do I refer the user ID? Gr underscore user dot user name. right? Let's try this. So what next would do, we'll see just right now. Okay, let's do this. So I'll be going back here and going back to the background script. Let's put this and run it. As you can see, the script is giving the output as 33 records, and the user ID are being shown here. All the user IDs 33, right? So what is the importance of next here? What could, if I don't put next, what happens, right? So let me remove this and let me remove the whole statement here and try to copy and paste it. Everybody knows this. Let's see, it's blank. So we are never referencing. The first time the compiler sees, or the runtime mechanism sees the next function, only then it starts referring to a record. Let's see one more example on this one, as in we will write down only gr_user.next, right? So what is the expected result here, right? Why did we write down the while loop? What is the expected result here? If you're writing down next once, it will just refer to the first record. Wherever the cursor is, it will refer only to that record or the next record. Okay. So let us run this. Whatever is the first record which comes when it is querying, only that will be shown. That's what is expected. See here, this is the first thing. Anusha is the first record which we are seeing here. That is the reason we have, if we are traversing, if you want to see all the records in the data set of gr_user, we'll have to put a while loop. You can definitely feel comfortable to use for loop or anything which you want, but this is much more easier. While loop is like, you don't have to initiate anything, no variables, just put it and it will work, right? Till the time this thing returns false. So next function also returns true and false, but it would take the cursor to the next record. So this is where the next function works. Now we could do it in another way as well, wherein which we want to see, before we go into any next statement, we want to evaluate whether it actually has any next record or not. So if at some point of time we want to see that, then we can just see if gr, what we would do is, let me just put it down and so that it is clear, gr_user dot has next, right? This also returns true and false. So what this would do is, only if they are saying there is a record existing, then only I want to print this. So I would say gs.print, yes, there is a record existing. And I can put this while loop inside this. So just for a, we'll have better use cases than this, but at this point of time, this is the only thing which is coming into my mind. So yeah. And in the else statement, we can just write down that gs dot add, or we'll write down print. So let's write down print info. Anything is fine for this demo. I'll write down no, there are no records. Right? This is where, let's try this, right? We know about the print statement, we know about the while loop, how the has next works. So let's try to evaluate this. What are the output of this one? Right? All the script is here. Let's run this script and let's see what happens. Number of records, reference records is 33. Yes, there is a record existing. User IDs are being printed, right? So let me go back here again. If I do not have this query record and I want to try this thing, let's run this. See, number of records reference is 0, and no, there are no records. So you can already see the benefit of has next, right? It will make more sense when we are looking at the other functions which I was talking about, there in which we have, let's go to that slide. Yeah, the add query and add encoded query. Let's see how that works. So think of this as you have 33 users right now. Yeah, let us take an example wherein which we want to find out all the records in user table which do not have any email address, right? So simple, you can see how add query would work here. Let's see that example. Add query. This is like a where condition, as I already mentioned. So add query. Oh, sorry. So gr underscore user dot add query, and I would write down as email is empty. That's all. So before we go here, let's see the user records and try to find out wherever it is empty. Let's see. So there are 6 records where it is empty. Okay. So let's try to find out and whether it is working or not. Our output should be here as 6, and it should show all those 6 user IDs. Let's see that whether it is working or not. It's like email where email is empty. You can read this as where email is empty. Control A, Control C. Go back to background script. Run the script. You can see here number of reference records is 6. And yes, there is a record existing, and these are the 6 records. So the output works, right? So it's a very simple example. We can do another example as well, in which, yeah, I can show you that on an encoded query. Let's do that example on encoded query. Let's see how this can be actually an encoded query, right? I can copy the query here, and I can simply paste it as a string, right? Let's see if this works or not, first of all, right? So C, and let's see, and write down background script. Let me put it as favorite. We'll be using this more often. So I'll paste it here and run this. See, even over here, we are seeing 6 records, and yes, there is a record existing and all the data set, right? What is the better benefit of writing down a add encoded query? Let's see. Let's go back to add query again here, and I would just write down email is empty. And if I again want to find out gr underscore user dot add query, active is true. I want to see all these users only where the active is true. So let me see. Let me copy this and paste it here. But before that, let's verify the users who have, active of this kind of condition, whether the result set which we get is correct or not. So email is equal to empty, and we want the active to be true. So over here, we should be getting the result as 4. Let's see if our script works or not. I'll be going here. And yes, we are getting the result as 4. Now, if I go back to the script, you can see that we have written 2 add queries here, right? Instead, what I could have done is I could just copy this query from here, and I could just write it down simply as this. Okay. Simply like this. right? This is encoded query. So it's one line, and go back here and paste it. Run the script. You can see it works the same way. So it's just different ways. You would actually love to use encoded query most likely when you have dynamic filters to be built or date filters to be built. You have to find out data dynamically in between two date ranges. Those are the best places where we use encoded query. Otherwise, you can always go, if it is simple, you can always go for AdQuery. That's actually the difference, because I can just write down over here where query, str and equals to, you can write down, copy this thing. It will act exactly like a string. So I'll just write down as qry.str underscore str. So semicolon. So what would happen is we can actually write down scripts, or if you are getting some values, we can write down something like this. Or if we have another variable, we want to represent that variable here, we can do that. All those good stuff can be done using the encoded query. So let us try that final thing. Yeah, we get the same result for records. Let's go back to our slides again. So this in this video, we looked at what is GlideRecord, what is the pointer orientation of it, how does it traverse, it goes only in one direction, what are the syntax, and few use properties which are mandatory for you to know. In the next video, we'll be talking about query, insert, update, delete. We'll be looking at all four of them in the next video. Thank you.